All right, so the question was, write a function that takes two arrays and returns a new array that is everything in array B that is not present in array A. So if you say array diff 5 and then 1, 2, 5, 17, result should be 1, 2, 17. The 5 was stripped out. So if we call that function, and up here we have a function called array diff. Now, usually in JavaScript, you don't capitalize functions unless it's unless you're creating a class. But we'll talk about that in Q4. So this really probably be better as array diff like that. But it's just a convention. It's not going to break anything. Now, this takes in array 1 and array 2. One tool that we have to use, that we use a lot in JavaScript, is index of. I put inside of these slides a hint for you guys to do some research. Includes or index of. And so what you can do is you can go to here and in Node, in your terminal, you can practice certain JavaScript things. So if everybody could go ahead and pull up Node now. So just go to your terminal and type in Node, N-O-D-E. That will take you into what we call the command line interface for Node. In this command line interface, you can type JavaScript. So this is a place that you can test JavaScript expressions. For example, I would like you all to do 5 mod 2. What do you think? What do you know the answer is going to be to that? 1. Why? Because when you do 5 divided by 2, there's a remainder of 1. So you can type in different expressions in here. For example, var, I don't know, count equals 1. Var increment equals 2. Count plus increment is 3. Now, what we'd like to do here is to test index of and includes. So you can declare an array. You can say var nums equals 1, 2, 3, 5, 17, whatever. Just put in some nums. All right, and then I would like you to do nums dot index of 17. You should get, or any number that's in there. So what does index of do?
Gives you the index of the number.
The index of where that number is found in the array. Okay, so if we say nums.index of -10, and -10 is not in your array, or let me do this, nums.index of 20. Let's say 20 is not in your array, we use a positive number. Index of 20 is -1. So index of is an old tool. It's been part of JavaScript for a long time. ECMAScript 3, the index of? Yeah. That sounds about right.
So when it's not in there, it'll give you -1.
Right. So index of gives you -1 if something is not in the index, is not in the array. It's a good way to search for if something is in the array. However, with EX6, we have a new tool. If you're just looking to see if something is in an array, with index of, you just basically put something like this. Nums dot index of 20 is greater than -1. And that's false. So if index of a number is greater than -1, then that means it's in the array. Nums.index of 5 is greater than -1. That's true because 5 is in the array. Does that make sense? So we use index of to test. If it's a test, this is traditional JavaScript. Nums.index of 5 is greater than -1. We're just basically saying, are you in the array? And then it says true. We have a new way though with ex6. Nums.includes 5. And that's true also. So try nums.includes 5. And if that doesn't work, then that means that you're using an older version of Node. Make sure your parentheses are balanced.
How do you clear out?
You know, in the node, there is a way to do it in here. You can't press clear in here. I'm forgetting how to clear out in the terminal. Oh, we don't want that. Yeah.
Refresh.
I mean, if you really want to, you could just hit dot exit and then clear here and then node. Yes. Another tab. So when you're in a tab here, hit Command T and you get a new window. Command T. So this is my old one, this is mine. Is that what you're asking? Command T. No, in the terminal, you see here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs here. I just hit Command T and it gets a new tab. Command T. All right, so nums.includes, did anybody have any problems with that? Nums.includes 3 here, yeah, true. Okay, so we're armed with that knowledge now. We could do nums.index of 3 is greater than -1, which gives us true, or we could say nums.includes 3, and that also gives us true. So what we want to do is, well, yeah, we'll go back up to our REPL. Here, we have to do a check to see if array 1 includes the number we are looping through. Or, I'm sorry, see if array 2 includes the number we're looping through. Oh, well, no, array 1. Array 1, yeah, array 1. Because we loop through array 2, the second array, and we want to see if array 1 has the number we are looping through. So what Serenity did and a couple other people did in their warm-up, they just created a bucket as an accumulator. It's an array. So let R equal just an empty array, right? Or we could just call this Accum or Acc, right? It's our accumulator, something that we're going to push things into if we find it and we like it. We like it if it's not included in the other array. So for let I equal 0, I is less than R2 dot length,
So quick question for you.
I plus plus. Mhm.
How come sometimes in flows when I'm seeing them, I'll see var or let, and sometimes you don't see it? Sometimes they just write out the I equals 0.
Well, I equals 0, so that's usually another programming language. But if they do it in JavaScript, that's very bad.
Okay.
Because then I is set to the global scope and it can affect other things in the program. So you need to put let I.
Okay.
That might be old code that you're looking at just from older JavaScript.
Okay.
When people were a little more loose about some of these things which we now consider bad habits. Okay, so for let I equals 0, I is less than or equal to that length I plus plus. So then now we need to check to see if R1 dot includes what do we call it? R2 I then Acc dot push R2 of I.
Are you missing a parenthesis?
And I am
Right behind the I.
right here. And then here we want to return at the end of the function, return Acc, return our accumulator. Okay. So we want to say if R1 does not include. So how do we negate? What negates things? The bang.
I just wasn't sure how to write that.
Right. So you can say this: if not R1 dot includes R2 of I, like that.
Can you switch to R1 and R2 since we're going off of R2? If R2 includes, take out the not, if R2 includes R1 index?
No, because R1 is a different length than R2. The index, by the time we get over here, we're an index of 3. There is no index of 3 in R1, so you can't do it based on index. You just want to say, if not R1 includes R2 of I, then push it into the.
One thing I've been having trouble with is knowing where to put my return statement. Sometimes I see return statements like inside the code block of a for loop, and then sometimes I see them at the end of the function. What's better or proper?
Well, you always should return, so you have to make sure you don't return it inside of a loop, definitely. Because if you return inside of a loop, it's going to quit early. And then you won't, so if I put this return here, like right here inside of this loop here.
Is it only going to do one iteration?
Yep,
Okay.
it did one iteration
Okay.
and returned early. Yes, Serenity.
So now this works for the arguments that you're putting in, but if you change the first array from just 5 and you add in some different numbers, it doesn't work. That's the issue I ran into after.
This works. This code is very different than your code.
Okay.
Your code, you had a double loop.
Yeah.
It's a different type of logic.
Okay.
And so I'm just showing this one because this uses one loop. One loop. You see, just a for loop and an if statement inside of it. That's it.
So you added a 3 down there?
Yeah, a 2.
Oh, okay.
So you see I added a 2, so only 1 and 17 are left. If I add 17 down here,
What if
then-
you added like a 3?
if you add a 3 here, it should not affect it.
So shouldn't the 3 show up?
No, so what the assignment was, and some of it was the wording of the assignment. It says, it returns a new array. There's everything in array B that is not present in array A. So you basically return this entire array, stripped out anything that's over here. So you see here, the 7, 10, and 12. You take, this is your answer, minus the 7, the 10, and the 12.
Okay, so mine worked. It's just
Oh, you were doing a different problem. You were solving a different problem.
It worked, and then I thought to add things to just check and see, and so I started adding it into the second or the first array there, and it wasn't working, and so I got it in my own head and thought it didn't work.
Oh,
But it did work.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's one way to do this.
So, if you were to use index of, how would you write that out?
So here you would just basically say, if array 1 dot index of array 2 of I is greater than negative 1. Right? So array 1, the index of the current thing that we're looping is greater than negative 1.
So basically, is true. If it is true, then push it.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. If it equals negative 1. Right. So equals negative 1 means it's not in there. That's one of the reasons why they created the includes function, because the index of it's not confusing, but it like takes another step of thinking.
An extra step.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, the index is equal to negative 1 means it's not in the array, where if it's greater than negative 1 means it's in the array.
Could you replace the negative 1 with a Boolean?
No,
Okay.
because if the index of equals true, then that gives you all truthy values, and negative 1 is a truthy value. So we're not looking for a truthy value, we're looking for negative 1 to mean that it's not in that array. So this one here says all the things that are in the array. We push everything, if it's not found in R1, then we push it into our accumulator.